What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching via YouTube on this nice early morning, or you're going to be, listening later in the podcast via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, a huge show today. I about died yesterday watching the Denver Nuggets. I'm not going to lie to you. They continue to increase my stress levels. I'm sure one day I will probably suffer some sort of heart palpitation from these games. The amount of anger and excitement they bring me is unmatched. But mainly I face the lowest of lows more often than the highest of highs with them. But regardless, yesterday was a moment where I got to experience one of the highest of highs. We'll get to that. Jamal freaking Murray. Has Jamal Murray arrived as the guy that we've been hoping for? We'll get to that, as well as the rest of our playoff predictions. But we're going to start, obviously, with reaction to yesterday's overtime thriller. The Jazz can just never just die and go away and leave. They have to continuously battle us to the depths of overtime. And Donovan Mitchell, I mean, what more can you say about the guy? 57 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Was actually a minus 11 in the plus minus, which is kind of weird. Don't understand that. But in 43 minutes, I mean, the guy was just seemed like every time he got the ball, it's almost kind of the similar to when Damian Lillard has the ball and he's feeling it. It's just like, you just know it's going in. How can we stop this guy? Luckily, it took him forgetting that it takes 8 seconds to get, or you have 8 seconds to cross the half court line. But there was a situation to where on that offensive possession for the Nuggets, when they shot the ball, I guess 2 seconds expired from the shot clock for the Jazz as they were battling for the loose ball, I guess. So Donovan didn't really think about that. So he had like 6 seconds or something like that to get across the line. So regardless, it didn't work for him. So thankfully, and then I think Jamal Murray comes down, hits a 3-pointer to get it within one, and then the game changes from there. But I mean, he had a huge game yesterday. Ingles played really well. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, are you kidding me? I mean, the step back that he hit where he's dribbling on the ground and he just tosses that up. I was just like, okay. It just feels like they're getting every bounce. But the Nuggets, I mean, you had your stars play like stars when you needed them to. Jokic came out, set the tone early, was a little bit quiet throughout the rest of the game, but had a big fourth in overtime, finishes with 29 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. I saw a stat yesterday that the Nuggets were like 44 and 270 something when Jokic has
It wasn't that bad.
No, seriously, I'll find it. It was when Jokic
It was
has
like 40 and 45 and 90 or something.
No, I'm telling you,
Yes,
it
you
was like
retweeted it. I saw it.
I'm telling you, it was
You're
in the
so
200.
dramatic.
It was in the 200. I'm telling you, it was.
You're so
I'm
dramatic.
gonna. Okay, no. Okay,
It was.
okay, so it's from Ryan Blackburn. I don't know why I was thinking 270. He probably hasn't even played that many games with the Nuggets now that I'm thinking about it. In Nikola Jokic's career, the Nuggets are 44 and 70 when Jokic puts up 3 assists or fewer. Still, that's a crazy stat.
That was funny.
He had 3 assists last night. Now they're 45 and 70 when he puts up 3 assists or fewer. I may have dramatized that just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't know where I got 270 from. And then Jamal Murray, of course, 36, 9, and 5. You know what's funny about Jamal's performance yesterday is I was thinking about this in the first quarter or first or second quarter. He had like 5 points and he just wasn't doing much. And I was like, okay, is this Jamal where it's, he's just not going to do anything and we're back to this. And then in the fourth quarter, I mean, he matched Donovan shot for shot.
Yeah.
And of course, he not just like in that double overtime game, it wasn't Jokic. I mean, Jokic played well, but it was Jamal matching Donovan shot for shot. And I mean, hitting tough shots. I mean, he takes that turnaround mid-range jumper, and I'm just like, oh God, this is the one that's going to miss. And he just nets it every time. And when he's feeling it, he's feeling it. So huge game for the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, Monte Morris, that was the guy I was really curious to see play yesterday because he had an awful playoffs last year. He comes out, makes huge shots.
He didn't hit a single three last year.
Right.
He was 0 for 14.
Yeah, he played completely awful, but he hit a huge 3 in yesterday's game down the stretch. He was 2 of 3, 14 points. Jeremy Grant, 19 points. MPJ, 13 points, 8 rebounds, played really well in the first quarter, but once they started attacking him defensively, Utah, then his offensive production kind of slowed down. But I mean, 13 points from MPJ in his first playoff game in 31 minutes. And what really impressed me with that was with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, MPJ was on the bench, and I was like, okay, what is Malone going to do with him here? This is really going to show how he feels about MPJ, and he put him out there. Now, he did get taken out again, but I thought that was huge for MPJ,
Right.
for Malone to be like, you know what? And part of it is he has no choice, but he puts him out there, and that puts a lot of confidence in the kid. The Nuggets end up winning 135-125. Obviously, with Donovan's performance, I mean, the score was not indicative of how close it actually was. The Nuggets pulled away in overtime. Huge win for them. What were your thoughts on yesterday's win?
Well, yeah. So first, I want to get to MPJ since just talked about him. He had, let's see, what did he have? He had 13 points,
8 rebounds,
and 8 rebounds. I mean, look, if obviously it's a little bit more. We're a little bit more down on it because of what he has been doing recently. But I mean, if I told you, hey, game 1, he gives you 13 and 8, I think you're pretty happy about it. And right out, here's the thing too. It's not like it's weird how the game went for him because he started off the game 3 for 4 from 3. Within like the first 5 or 7 minutes, or maybe first 5 minutes.
I want to say he had 6 or 9 in that first quarter of his 13.
I think he hit the 3 threes. Because he was 3 for 7 from 3 in the game, and I think his only 3 threes came from that first quarter. And it was right away. I mean, the first bucket for the Nuggets I think went to Jokic, and then the next 2 were MPJ from 3. So that was really good to see him just right off the bat get his points. And being aggressive. He looked comfortable out there. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look scared of being in the playoffs or anything like that. But then the game went on, and he got worse, which was weird. And I don't know if maybe early on it wasn't as intense, so it just felt more normal to him. And then as the game went on, it got a little bit more intense. And maybe Utah's defense, I don't know. He just, for whatever reason, he didn't look comfortable. It's not that he just didn't do anything. He didn't look comfortable being out there. And he would try and make a cut, but he would change his mind halfway. I spent most of the third quarter really watching Michael Porter, and he would stand in the corner, wait for the ball to get to him. The ball really never came to him. And then when he would cut, he wouldn't cut all the way through. He would cut once he got to maybe the block, he would stop. And it's either because someone else would cut or it's because someone would drive. It's just his timing was off on everything. And he didn't seem comfortable. And so I think, for him, it's going to take a while. When Jamal came back, there was an adjustment for Porter of, okay, now I'm the third guy, right? And now in the playoffs, I think there's also going to be an adjustment of how aggressive should he really be. And on the defensive end too, he got lost a couple times. So we're kind of, with the scrimmage games, it was like a fresh start for Porter, right? And then Jamal came in, and then he kind of had to restart. Well, now that the playoffs are starting, he has to restart again. And so it's going to be one of those things where I don't think until, at the earliest, the second round, where he's going to really be comfortable with his role in the playoffs. But then Barton and Gary are going to come back. We assume for the second round, right? So then it's going to be a whole nother adjustment for him. So it's for him and people's expectations for Porter. He may have 1 or 2 games in this series where he just gets hot for a moment and maybe he can get up to 20. But other than that, I think he should really live right here. 13 points, 8 rebounds. 15 points, 9 rebounds. Right around there. Get your rebounds. Be aggressive on the offensive boards. If you go 3 for 7 from 3, that's 43%. I'll take that. And so, 5 for 13 from the field. He missed a lot of layups. Rudy Gobert bothered him a lot. So, that's going to be an adjustment too. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive. He needs to go for dunks instead of just throwing it up there. So those are some takeaways from Porter. And then, with the bench, well, first Paul Millsap.
Oof.
Jeremy
Oof.
Grant needs to start. Jeremy Grant needs to start. I think Jeremy Grant has a good matchup against Utah. He's playing great. He played 40 minutes last night. Paul only played 29. He's just, I don't know what's going on with Millsap, but it's been really the seeding games, and then yesterday he's been awful. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's still banged up. I don't know if it's just a bad matchup for him. I don't know, but Jeremy Grant seems to have the matchup. He needs to start. One thing from Jeremy Grant though, he needs to rebound. He had 0 rebounds. At 6'10" power forward, you have to get a few rebounds. Like, I get you're coming off the bench, but to have 0 rebounds, that's and it's been a problem for him all season, where he just doesn't rebound the ball. So look, MPJ got 8 rebounds. So if Jeremy's in the starting lineup and he only gets 3, but MPJ gets 10, it's fine, I guess, whatever. But he needs to start. You touched on Monte. They need him to play like that every game. And this is his second run. I think he's definitely a lot more comfortable this time around. Maybe it's because of being in the bubble, but he looks comfortable. He looks good. He's got some confidence after game 1, so he should be able to continue it. And PJ Dozier, I thought played really well defensively. He's got to be, I think, a little bit more aggressive offensively, but I think he played well. And then Plumlee only played 11 minutes. I would like to see Plumlee play maybe a little bit more. I think he actually has a good matchup. He was 1 for 1. He did have 3 fouls, so I don't know if that's why he didn't play much. But 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal. I thought Plumlee, the 11 minutes that he had was a good 11 minutes. So I don't know. We'll see how Malone, adjusts the rotation. But for it being game 1 without 2 of your starters or 1 of your starters at this point, it took it took 57 from Mitchell and they still lost. So that's that. I think you can kind of take away that's kind of a good thing. Is he really gonna average 50 a game in the series?
He's gonna have to.
He's gonna have to for them to win. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's gonna be able to do that. So I think the Nuggets are in a good spot. And Jamal, he's ready. I don't know what else to say about Jamal. He's gonna be the guy down the stretch for them. He has a really good matchup against Utah because no one can guard him. When Conley gets back, if he gets back in time, we'll see. But this is Jamal's series. And if they want to get past the second round, he needs to do this every night. Maybe not 36, but he needs 25, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting, above 50% from the field. And he shot 66% from 3. That's just stupid. But yeah, he does hit. He had 36, 9, and 5 on 65 from the field, 66 from 3. That's ridiculous. He doesn't need to do that, but 25 on 50, 40. Doris Burke actually yesterday said he should be a 50, 40, 90 guy, and I completely agree. If he's 50, 40, 90 in the playoffs, they have a chance to get past the Clippers.
50
Be-
might be tough. I mean, that's asking a lot.
he
But
shot
maybe
65% yesterday.
maybe mid 40s, high 40s, like a 40, 40, 90. I could see that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean he can
54. I mean,
easily be
that's
that
tough.
guy.
That's tough to do. But
Yeah.
I want to touch on a lot. You got to a lot there, so I kind of want to go through it with you there. MPJ, I think I agree with you that he he played well to start, which I thought was encouraging.
Hmm.
I think it's also very encouraging that he's not playing in a typical playoff environment. I think it would be a completely different performance. So for him to come out and start that way, I think that's encouraging. I think the reason that we saw things kind of slow down for him was one, I think teams are going to start keying in on him now. They know what he can do, so they're going to take him seriously. And I think Utah did that. Also, on the other end, Utah really sought out the switch of him on Donovan Mitchell, and they were attacking him.
Yeah.
And I think defensively, he was getting kind of wore out. So that I think that kind of affected him too. And then with Jokic kind of taking things over in that first quarter, guys were hitting shots. The ball wasn't being swung to him as much. And I think for him too, what we have to remember with Michael is that he's technically still in his first year of actual play. Okay, so like it's his he redshirted, so he's in his first year of play. Not only was he in his first regular season, but now he's in his first like playoff,
Right.
and it's still a situation to where he's not the guy. Okay, it's not like he's playing in Atlanta or Orlando where he would be the guy getting all these shots. It's Jokic, it's Murray, and it's you get the scraps, kid. Um,
Right.
so for MPJ, it's kind of a situation where all I want with him, and I completely agree with you, if he can put up 13 to 15, and that may not sound like a lot, but it's about when he does it and when he puts up those numbers. I was talking about it with Zach yesterday at our station. It's what you need from Michael Porter Jr. is you need Jokic to set the tone early, and you need MPJ to be that bridge to sprinkle in to carry you over. And if Jamal can be that guy later in games, or it's Jokic, that's where you just need MPJ to fill in the holes.
Hmm.
Where those guys aren't doing anything, that's where you need MPJ to make a sighting, and he has that talent to do so. He needs more effort defensively. I get it's not easy covering Donovan Mitchell. I mean, asked Torrey Craig, he fouled out yesterday. And, Jeremy Grant, he
Yeah.
had his hand at it. Monte Morris, I mean, it's not easy. He was getting a lot of ticky-tack calls too, I feel like, yesterday, but credit to him because he knows how to draw fouls. So I think with MPJ, I'd like to see him get a little bit lower. Sometimes, too many times, he's caught up high standing up, and he's not very laterally quick for how athletic he is. At least he's not showing that. Maybe that's because of his stance and how he's positioning himself, but he just needs to be better defensively. As far as Paul Millsap goes, man, I don't know if he's battling through an injury or if his age has just caught up to him. It might be both. I think it's a situation too where I mean he's 35 and it may take longer for him to like get into the rhythm of things, whereas these younger guys are like, all right, let's just throw the ball out there and we're good to go. So that may be a thing too. It also just may be a situation where he's just not that guy anymore. So maybe Jeremy does have to start, and maybe Paul can give you 8 to 10 off the bench, and he's just there for moral support and leadership. Maybe that's what you get from Paul Millsap at this point. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how his play continues throughout the playoffs. But they do need him. There is a place for Paul
Right.
on this team. They do need him because defensively they're a nightmare without him. So they need him on this team. Jeremy Grant, as far as him rebounding, I think part of the reason we didn't see him rebounding yesterday was because he was guarding Donovan Mitchell so much. And when he's out on the perimeter, I mean, that's asking a lot for that guy to go into the trees and try and get a rebound over
Okay,
guys.
but my argument to that is Jamal had 5 rebounds, Monte had 3
Sure.
rebounds, PJ Dozier had 2 rebounds,
That's fair.
and those
That's
are all
fair.
your guards. And Torrey
And it's
Craig
effort.
had 4.
It's effort too. So I think part of it is maybe he was out on the perimeter a lot, but part of it too is effort. He is capable of getting those rebounds. So I would like to see more from him, but he's also come up in big moments for the Nuggets too. When we're in like the meat of the game and the Nuggets are like really they're going through a stretch of they're not hitting anything, it always seems like Jeremy Grant's the one that comes up with a timely 3 or 2. And that's huge for them. Him and Torrey Craig, like you can't understate how important these guys are. Even though Torrey is like a nightmare offensively, he hit some key threes yesterday, and he always comes up with like 1 to 2 plays that are just dog plays to where he gets a steal or he's there and he gets a tough layup. when you need it to kind of swing the momentum. So, I mean, you have to really appreciate those guys. How crazy it is, though, for me that if you'd have told me back in October or November or even December, whenever PJ got to this team, that PJ Dozier would be getting playoff minutes for the Denver Nuggets, I would have thought, okay, who got hurt? Jamal must have broken his leg.
Well, I mean,
Monte
two
must
guys did
be,
get hurt.
yeah, but it's like PJ Dozier's, he's not only getting minutes, but Malone trusts him.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
huge.
And he's playing
I think
well.
that says a lot.
It,
Yeah.
it, the numbers
that
don't
says a lot.
show, but when he's out there, he was out there playing really well.
Yep.
You know, the only guy, actually, I'm looking at the plus minus. The only guy that was not a plus was Paul Millsap. He was a -3. The next lowest was Jeremy Grant, was just a +1, which is interesting because he had 19 and 3 assists. The highest looks like was Jamal. Second was Monte and Torrey at +10. And then fourth was Jokic at +7. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's they're gonna need, especially with Barton and Harris out. By the way, real quick, they are really missing Gary. If I'm the Nuggets, and if Gary's close, it can hurt you in the future. But I'm fast tracking him right now.
Really?
They need him.
I don't think so.
They need him out of those two. They need him the most.
Oh, yeah.
Against the Clippers, I think you would actually want Barton more coming off the bench to score. But in this series, they need Gary Harris because, like I said, and I've said this a million times, Torrey cannot stick with the smaller guards.
I thought he
just
actually
can't.
did well yesterday.
He did well. He did well.
He did way better than he has been doing. He still fouled out, and Donovan still ended up with 57.
Right,
which
and he was still blowing
a lot
by
of that
him.
came on him. Yeah.
So,
But I thought he did better. I thought he did better.
Yeah.
He stayed a little bit better in front of Donovan, which, I mean, that's a tough task. But yes, as much as we slander Gary's name on this podcast offensively,
you.
No, wait, this is a we thing. We're in this together. We're going down. This chip is going down. We're both going down. Your legs are cemented on this thing as well. We're going down. The flag is slowly sinking into the water, and we're going down on this thing. Gary is vital defensively.
Yeah.
What he does defensively against these guards. Now, again, he's not stopping Donovan. Maybe Donovan doesn't go for 57 if Gary's there, but maybe he goes for 42. Now, it's not like Gary's completely shutting him down, but he's going to make it so much tougher. And he always seems to come up with those plays, like a key steal here or there, or a deflection. Offensively, I mean, it's a nightmare because you never know what you're going to get. But even with that being said, I mean, he's good for 8 to 13 points. So, I mean, you could use that. But I think, you know, what we saw yesterday was encouraging, even with Donovan going for 57. I mean, look at this was the Jazz's perfect game. Okay, they literally they got everything they needed to go. I mean, they didn't shoot great at the end of the game from 3. They were only 34%, but you hit 16. You shot 47 from the field. You got 57 from Donovan. You got nearly 20 from Ingles. You got 17 from Gobert, and you got 18 from Clarkson. There's 4 guys in double digits right there. And you still lost by 10. You know, and you held the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets shot really well from 3 yesterday. They shot 53%. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen again.
So, for them, I mean, a lot went right, and they had moments in the game where they were up 5-7 points where you felt like, all right, this is getting away from the Nuggets. And I'll say this, if this game happened last year, the Nuggets lose that game, but they just felt calm.
It was Jamal won that game.
Jamal
yesterday.
and Jokic. I mean, Jokic hit key threes down the stretch too. You can't forget that. Like he hit some big shots, whether it was that hook over Gobert, or the 3 in the left corner.
One thing though that I would like, and I get Jamal gave it up, but that last shot should have gone to Jamal. And I get they played the 2-man game, and they off the pick he got
good luck.
It was a good luck, and here's the thing. 2 things. I would have rather Jamal have taken that shot and gone 1-on-1. But I know they're not going to do that. They're going to run their 2-man game. I get he got doubled, so Jokic was wide open. Number 2, Jokic should have taken that shot instead of doing the head fake and doing whatever. I get there would have been time left on the clock, but they would have had the lead. So Jokic was wide open off that pass, and That's
Mhm.
that's it. That's a make. If
Yeah,
Jokic takes
maybe
that
that's
shot,
just a
that's a make.
situation he overthought it a little bit.
He
But
saw the
I mean,
clock.
listen,
He knew the
with
time, and he
with
waited.
7 seconds or less and the ball's in Jokic's hand, I trust him to do whatever he thinks
Right,
is best.
right.
I'm trusting
What
him.
it's
He's proven
better.
it.
It's better than what
So
we've been getting the last 3 years.
right.
So I mean, they couldn't even get a shot off 2 years ago, and that shot last year would have been just a mess. The fact that they do have a two-man game and the way Jamal was playing, the two-man game works even better, right? If
Mhm.
Jamal's not playing well, the two-man game is really just a 1.5 because it's Jokic and then it's like Jamal's body, and that's
Yeah.
it. So,
Yes. Good way to
so,
put it.
so I mean, that's I want to see Jamal, and I get this team is so unselfish. Those two guys are so unselfish, and they play that two-man game so well. But in those situations, I want you to be selfish. You need to be selfish. And for those who haven't, and I told Steven to listen to it, but for those who haven't, George Karl did a podcast about Melo, and it was fantastic. And the one thing that George Karl said, which I thought was really interesting, he told Melo that for the first 46 minutes or 3.5 quarters, whatever he said, it's not an exact quote. My memory sucks, but he said
Fruit fly.
for most of the game through, I'm guessing he said 46 minutes, be the team guy, make the right play. The last two minutes, you can be selfish. You need to be selfish. And for Jokic, he's not going to be that guy. But for Jamal, he can. And Jamal was that selfish guy for the last 2 minutes. He was.
In overtime, yeah.
And in overtime, he was. But that last shot, he wasn't. And in that situation, when you are that hot, you can end the game right there. You can absolutely end the game right there. And yeah. I want to see, that's the next, I'm already thinking of the next step for Jamal, even though he just got here. But that's the next step. He needs to be that guy that is going to take that last second shot. And I get it's been Jokic, and I get most people want it to be Jokic. But when Jamal is that hot, he needs to take that shot. Because in my mind, he hits it. There is no overtime if he takes that last shot.
Yeah. I think also too, it's probably, I don't know if that was like a direct, I mean, we won't ever know. I don't know if it was a directive from like Michael Malone saying Jokic has to take this shot.
No, I think it's a two-man game. I think they just flat out played the two-man game, and it was the right play. And it was. Yeah. It was. But instead of doing the two-man game, and I get they're going to do it, and especially this year, they're going to do it, and it's fine. But in that situation, I don't do the two-man game. I say, Jokic, I got this. I'm hot right now. Go.
I don't know.
I set a screen, whatever. But Jamal needs to be that. He needs to be that type of selfish guy at the end of games.
I think you could still do that while doing that, because I think the reason
because he got doubled off that two-man game.
Well, yeah, but if they don't double you and somehow they switch or they mess it up, then I just think that creates more benefit to you. To where if they double you, then you give it to Jokic, then he's either got a smaller guy on him or he's got a single matchup on him. And listen, I'm fine. Yesterday I would have been fine with either or, but I prefer Jokic because we've seen it multiple times now, at least 7 to 10 times, to where he's hit big shots to win games, or given his team the go ahead to eventually win the game. Yesterday, I think that falls if Rudy Gobert doesn't get a piece of it. I think Rudy actually got a piece of that.
Well, and that's why I don't do what Jokic did. I don't understand why he took that shot when. Here's the thing. When he got the ball, he was wide open. But Gobert didn't close out all the way to him. He stopped. So all you have to do, wait 2 seconds, do the shuffle shot.
Yeah.
Game over. Because
I think he just overthought it.
I think so too, because when you're driving the lane against Gobert, you're not going to hit that shot. And I get he got the hook earlier.
I think he's just confident that he can, which I like. I mean, he's confident that he can hit that shot.
Right. So,
and like I said, I'll trust him. Maybe it was a better shot at the top of the key, but you know what? If he drives, if he thinks that's, I mean, we've seen him against Dallas a few years back. he tosses it up. I
Yeah.
mean, most of his buzzer beater. Well, I wouldn't say probably
No,
close
most
to
of them
half.
are the
Um,
jumper out on the wing.
right now, yeah, but I would say early on, I mean, the one in Miami comes to mind,
Hmm.
where he hit that one. I mean, they've been floaters,
Yeah.
to where he is so unorthodox and he just throws it up and it like sails through the air in slow motion and it always just nets. It's
Hmm.
never like a clang and then it goes in. It just nets. So either way, I think I would have been fine, but I
Yeah.
prefer Jokic to take that shot just because we've seen it. Now down the road, I think the Nuggets are in a great spot because now they have two guys who can take that
Yeah.
shot
And
and you can
eventually
feel
they'll have
comfortable
three.
with it. And hopefully, hope that's the
Hopefully.
goal, right?
Hopefully.
Eventually, hopefully that's the goal, which it looks like it's trending that way. But I think naturally it gets us to Jamal. Obviously, he had a great performance yesterday. Is it time to say Jamal, the guy that we've been waiting for, that we're not just banking on potential, is he here? Um, because for me, I don't know if I'm there yet.
Here,
I
I'll give
want to
you
be there.
I'll give you half an answer. He's there in the bubble. Because there's no distractions. There's no other factors. There's no road crowd. There's no home crowd. It's just the game. And when it's just the game, Jamal can, and we've seen, guys like TJ Warren, there's been a couple other guys who in the bubble they're able to hit that next level in which they couldn't before. And whether it's the pressure of the crowd, whether it's, just other distractions outside of basketball, and when you're in the bubble, traveling, right. When you're in the bubble, it's just all about basketball, and so you can just focus a little bit more. Maybe Jamal is just having an easier time focusing. It could just be that simple. Or he could just be there. I mean, we won't know until, we get to normalcy, but that's something that he's there. He's there in the bubble. When we get out or when they get out and we get to normalcy, I think we're going to have to start that all over again because I don't think he takes the regular season very seriously. He takes key matchups seriously, but that's it. That's that next step for him in the regular season is to be consistent every night. But you don't want to just, kill yourself over the regular season and then come playoff time you want to, and that's something that the Nuggets really did this past regular season. They paced themselves, maybe a little too much. So that's one thing that they're gonna have to learn. But I mean, I think, and we'll get to our NBA playoff predictions, but I think the bubble, out of all the teams in the league, I think the bubble benefits the Nuggets the most. Absolutely. Okay. Out of every team, every team had their ceiling, right? The LA Clippers, the Lakers, and the Bucks were all up here, right? And everyone else was kind of down here. Well, I think the Nuggets ceiling is up there with them in the bubble. Outside of the bubble, and because of the break, if everything would have just gone normally, the Nuggets could have easily been out in the first round, right? They could have dropped to 4, 5, 6 and got bounced in the first round. But because of the break, to help Porter get healthy, for him to get, just get better with, the plays, the schemes, whatever, that helped him. He grew up during those 4 or 5 months. Jamal gained 13 pounds. And then of muscle, and you can tell it helps him. It really helps him out there. And then just the maturity of the team, and then being in the bubble. It does help them because they're so young. They don't have to go out on the road and the travel and it's not as intense as a normal playoff game would be because there's no crowd. So, maybe the play itself is just as intense, but the crowd adds a whole nother element to it. And so not having all of that pressure, I think it elevates them because they're so young, they're so talented, but their youth would have hurt them in a normal situation. In this situation, in the bubble, their youth doesn't hurt them anymore. Not necessarily, not as much as it would. So I think it does raise their ceiling a little bit more.
Yeah. I I guess just going back to, and I agree with what you said, but going back to Jamal, I want to be there so bad. I want to say, okay, he's arrived, he's here, he's the second star. It's official. Like with Jokic, he's a star. It took a little while for us to get there, but there's no doubting he's a star. He's in some people's mind arguably a top 10 player. I think he's a top 10 player. Maybe he's at 10. That's fine with me, but he's there. I mean, you have to put him at least in that argument. Two-time All-Star. I mean, he's there. He's the leader of this team. He played well in the playoffs last year. He showed up yesterday in game 1, 29-10 when you needed him. He wasn't disappearing. And I thought, he's showing a little bit more attitude now too. He's showing a little bit more little oomph.
You caught all the mic'd up moment. Did you watch on ESPN?
I did, but I couldn't hear the sound because it was muted.
He's so much more vocal. He's
right.
I mean, at the end of the game when Jamal hit that 3, and they, they do the old chest bump thing, and that's something that you wouldn't have seen a year ago. I mean, those two, they're on a whole nother level right now. Mm-hmm. Not just game-wise, but as a leader, as just being vocal for that team, creating that energy for that team. They're the two leading the way, and it's something that we wouldn't have seen a year ago.
Yeah, that's your foundation, and you just build around it. And then MPJ might be the third foundation that you just add that stone to, and you just have a bigger, wider foundation. But for right now, that's the foundation. Yeah. But with Jamal, it's like, man, we know what he can be. And maybe it's not a top 10 player. Maybe it's borderline top 15. It's for sure top 25. All-star level. I think that's his ceiling. Maybe he has another level he can reach and he's a star. But man, I just don't know if I can say officially, okay, Jamal has arrived and I can count on this every game. I'd like to see him go throughout the rest of the series. Next game, what does he show? Because we've seen, history has shown, when he's played really well, the next game typically is a 15, 12, 20 points. And it's 6 of 19 shooting, and it doesn't look good. So what does that look like for Jamal? If he can bounce back, and he doesn't have to get 36, but if he bounces back and it's 25 and 8 and 4, then okay, that shows me, okay, now he's hit a gear, and now consistency is there. If we get through this playoffs and he can at least average somewhere between 25 and 8 and 3 to 5, then I think I'll be able to say, okay, he's here, and maybe next year he may not break into the All-Star game of the West, because the West is just so loaded, but you can make that argument of, yeah, he could possibly be an All-Star reserve for sure. So I just don't know if I'm there yet. But man, is it so fun to see him play at this level. It's like a breath of fresh air, honestly, because you know what talent he has. And if he can reach his ceiling and Jokic can reach his ceiling, oh my God. I mean, you're competing for years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. We're still waiting on Jamal. And he's 23 or whatever. So, it's just a matter of when, not if, to me. I don't know what really his full ceiling is. Can he be? I think he's at least an all-star, is ceiling wise. But can he be a star? Can he be an all-NBA third team kind of guy?
Maybe.
Can he reach, maybe not bubble Damian Lillard, but can he reach Damian Lillard type of level, which is a all-star reserve, I would say. I mean, obviously Dame bubble is very different, is MVP.
I mean, Damian himself should be an all-star starter. I mean, but the West is just so packed.
Right. But can he be in that group? Can he join those group of point guards where, it's Dame, Russ, Steph, I can't think of all of them. There's so many of them.
Devin Booker. I mean,
there's so many guards in the West. Can he join that level where maybe he doesn't make the All-Star team, but he's in that group? Can he get to that group? And I think that's his ceiling. I don't think he's ever going to be an all NBA first guy, all NBA second guy, but can he be an all NBA third guy and make an all-star team or a few all-star teams and be at their level? Yes. Can he be the closer for this team? Yes. So he checks all those boxes. Jokic is your all NBA first team guy. He's your on the MVP ballot.
Yep.
That's Jokic. But can Jamal be that second guy? And you can be the second guy and be the closer. I mean, we see it in Portland, which has kind of been a theme going on. No one's really talking about it, but yeah, Dame is getting 50, 60 points, but CJ's closing the games.
I told you CJ is real. You doubted that man. I don't know why you doubt him.
So you can be the closer as a second guy. And
who else is a closer as a second guy?
Stop
Paul George.
No, he's not.
Paul George.
No.
He had some big shots last night.
By the way, they would have lost that game if it wasn't for the refs. That was an awful ejection.
Lost that game if it wasn't for Paul George.
So I mean, Jamal can be that guy. So I mean, look, we'll see, but I think they're in a very, very good spot, and they're only gonna get better because they're gonna get Gary, and that's gonna fix a lot of their defensive issues. They're gonna get Will, which is gonna help their bench be a little bit more consistent offensively, right? So those are two guys that when they enter the lineup, hopefully it doesn't cause any bumps of chemistry or whatever. I think when Gary comes back, I think he'll fit pretty much because he fits the Torrey role and he can do what Torrey's doing right now. So I think he will kind of fit in really easily. Will, I'm not sure about because again, last year when he came back right before the playoffs, he struggled. So, but coming off the bench, he played well in the second series against Portland. So, when he comes back, he's gonna be coming off the bench. What does that look like? But they're only gonna get better. I think Jokic and Jamal are gonna get just even more comfortable, and I think Porter is gonna get more and more comfortable, and I think he'll slowly start to get better. So to me, the Nuggets, this is, they're not gonna shoot 53% from three, but they're not going to look this bad either. I think I don't think they looked good yesterday. I really don't. I think the last 2 minutes, they look great. But for 46 minutes, and in overtime, they were great. But for the first 46 minutes, especially in that third quarter, I don't think they were that good. I think they
played really well up until the third quarter. I mean, they were up 10 early, in the second quarter.
But Utah wasn't shooting the ball well. And when that evened out, that's when the third quarter happened. So, I mean, I don't think this might be one of the worst games the Nuggets play in the playoffs. I'll say that.
Really?
I think this is one of the worst. Despite the 3-point shooting, obviously they're not going to shoot that well, but just flow on offense, speeding the game up when you want, defensively. I think this is one of the worst games that you will see in the playoffs from them.
Defensively, sure, I can go with you there, but I mean, I thought offensively, I mean, and they always have spurts in games where the offense just hits a rut and they stop moving, they chuck up shots. It's like this. It's this cycle. And most of the time, they start well, things are humming, they're going, and then they hit a wall, and then the defense suffers, and then they go, down by like 7-10, and then they go on a run. And then it's close, and then they almost give me a heart attack. That's just how this goes. That's the Denver Nuggets in a nutshell. So, and then they win because Jokic has to toss up a 50-foot floater, and it nets. And I'm like, all right, life is back to normal. I can sleep well tonight. But, I mean, I thought they played okay. But at the end of the day, I mean, this team, like you said, they're fun to watch. Once they get Gary back, I think that'll be fine. Jokic and Murray's chemistry is on another level, but don't forget that Gary and Jokic have a nice little two-man game.
They can run the two-man game. Yep.
It's decent. It's obviously not to the level that Jamal and Jokic is at, but I mean it's effective too. Gary is so great at cutting. Gary is so great at finding lanes, and I think that's what they miss too at times. Is he's great at backdooring guys and just cutting and getting.
There
those
wasn't
dunks.
a lot of that in this game, and Jokic had 3 assists. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is the offense didn't look like the normal offense. It took Jamal to go Super Saiyan one-on-one mode in order
Hmm.
for them to win.
Yeah.
And so the offense itself, take Jamal out, the offense itself did not run well.
That's fair.
And
I can give
and
you that.
and it a lot of it was Porter couldn't cut. I don't know what he was doing offensively. He just didn't look comfortable. It's so bizarre because the first 2 minutes of the game, Porter was like, "Oh my god, he's gonna go for 30." Like
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
He has that
And
potential.
right, and all of a sudden he just, when they were in the half court, he didn't know when to cut. And Porter's, I think, right behind Gary, the best cutter on this team. And he just
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. I think this team, even though Jamal went for 30, 36 or whatever he went for, and Jokic had 29 and 9, I think this is going to be one of their worst. If when we look back at it, I think this is going to be one of their worst games. Maybe not their worst, but one of their worst games.
No, that's a good point. And you usually don't see, obviously, with that stat, Jokic have 3 assists or less.
Yeah.
And that's not because he's not passing it, because he's naturally a passive player. That's just because guys aren't moving. And, he wants to pass it. He wants
Right.
to give you easy buckets. So that's a good point. And the offense wasn't moving. I think with Porter, too, what we have to realize is he also has to find his rhythm. The starters, as this unit, haven't had a lot of games under their belt together.
Right.
The starters in general, because remember, the Nuggets had a lot of injuries during the regular season before everything got shut down. So the starters didn't really get to play well. They didn't get to build that chemistry. And when you insert an MPJ who is still a Bambi, he's still a deer out there trying to learn how to things
Right.
go. But when he's running around galloping and he hits those first 2 threes, he makes me giggle. I'm like, ooh, I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it. Because he just has that power.
It just makes you laugh. Like, it
Yeah.
really does. Like, he hit that
It does.
second three, and I just went, okay.
When he hits
Go,
those
go.
contested shots in guys' face, I'm like, oh my god, like we haven't had that since Carmelo. Obviously Jamal can do that.
Well,
But it's
even
like,
Melo couldn't do that from 3. I mean,
no,
it's stupid what he can do. It
yeah,
really is. It
his
doesn't make any
talent's great.
sense. Same with
It
Bol
doesn't.
Bol. It doesn't make any sense.
But they're in a great spot, and so is the league. I mean, when you look
Yeah.
at the young talent, yesterday I saw a stat. I think it was from Bleacher Report or
Mhm.
ESPN that 4 players under the age of 25 had 30 points in a playoff game yesterday.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, Jamal,
Mitchell.
Donovan, and there was one other guy, Luca.
Yeah.
I mean, the league is just in awesome hands with the young talent. Notice none of those names were Zion. Oh, shocker. But I'm just kidding. I gotta stop. I gotta stop. I can't do it. I can't not go a podcast without taking a shot at Zion. I'm sorry, Zion. It's not your fault. It's the media's fault. Thing I have to work through. I apologize. Anyways, league's in great hands. Zion's included in that, even though all he can do is dunk. Okay, I'm done. That's it. But before we wrap the podcast today, you had me send you had me send you my bracket, my playoff bracket. Obviously, a couple episodes ago, we predicted how the playoffs would go. I've made some changes since then because my belief in the LA Lakers is next to none. So, with that being said, how do you want to do this? You want to start with yours, or you want me to start with mine?
I threw yours up. You can just start in the East with the Bucks. What was that? Bucks Magic, and we can just go in order. Just do all of the East up to the finals, and then all of the West up to the finals, and then the finals.
Okay, so yeah, in the East, obviously with that 1-8 matchup, Bucks Magic. I mean, there's no contest there. The Bucks are going to sweep the Magic. I mean, barring any injury or somebody getting sick, there's no way the Bucks lose that series. So I had the Bucks in 4 in that one. In the 2-7 matchup, again, that's another sweep. Raptors Nets, barring any injury or sickness, I think the Raptors get away easily with that. 3-6. That's an interesting matchup. These two teams seem to always find a way to get to each other in the playoffs. But I think Boston is just too talented. I think that I had that in 6. I had the Celtics in 6 in that one. I just think with, even though he can't step out more than 5 feet to hit a shot, Ben Simmons being down for the Sixers isn't helping them. So when it's just Joel Embiid and he's got to carry that load by himself, it's hard on him. So I think the Boston Celtics win that in 6. Pacers Heat, that's an interesting series. I just think the Heat, they're going to upset somebody, and I think it's the Indiana Pacers. And I think I had that one going 6 as well. but that's a tough team. And we saw it firsthand when the Nuggets played them, and really with any team that's played the Heat. I mean, they've played every team either close or they've beaten guys or beaten teams. So I like that team. I like what they have there. With the Bucks in the Heat, I think I had that one in five, either five or six, if I remember correctly. But the Bucks win that one. They're just too talented at the end of the day. Even though Jimmy Butler's the man on that team, Jimmy's kind of digressed as a star. I mean, he's still a star, but when he was coming out of Chicago, I mean, he was like a 24, 25 point a game guy. Now he's like low 20s, if that. Offensively, it just doesn't seem like he's evolved very much, and he's kind of hit his ceiling there. So I have the Bucks in that one. Celtics Raptors. I just think the Celtics are too talented. I'm not sure Pascal Siakam is there to the level that people think he is. I think he's a good young player. I don't know if he's a star. I don't know if he's good enough to beat a Boston Celtics team that has four legitimate scoring options that can go for 20 a night, and Kemba, Jason, Jalen, and Gordon Hayward, who, by the way, hurt his ankle last night. So he's going to get an MRI today. So we'll see how that goes. But even then, if he misses that series somehow, if he's missing long term, I still think they beat the Raptors. I think I had that one going 6 as well. So in the Eastern Conference Finals, I got Bucks Celtics. Before, when we made our predictions, I chose the Celtics. I think now I'm going to go Bucks, but it's going to be 6 or 7. And I think I have the Bucks just getting out of that one, just barely. In the West, Lakers, Blazers. Oh, man, I'm really concerned about the Lakers. Not concerned enough to have them lose to the Blazers, but I think this goes 6. I think the loss of Avery Bradley, Rondo's not back yet, is he?
No, I think he returns either. Well, he practiced though, so we'll see. Maybe they sped him up.
Yeah. So I mean, even if he can't play, anytime soon, I think it's only going to hurt the Lakers not having him against the Blazers, because you need somebody to guard that backcourt. So I think the Blazers are good enough to get 2 in that one. But I think overwhelmingly it's LeBron. I think LeBron is just too much for them. And the Blazers are not a good defensive team, even for the Lakers, who are struggling offensively. When you have LeBron and AD, I think they're going to be able to match what CJ and Damian can. Damian's going to have to go nuts. I mean, he's going to have to average 40 to 50 in this series. Clippers, Mavericks. Yeah. Clippers, Mavericks. Really good game from the Mavericks last night. They had a chance to win that game, especially late. And I'll give the Mavericks credit. I thought this was going to be a much easier series for the Clippers. It's looking like it's going to be a little bit of a dogfight, which we shouldn't be surprised, because, I mean, Luka's great. Kristaps is playing really well, and they have shooters all around for the Mavericks. So I think I had that one going 6, if not 5. If it goes 5, I mean, every game is going to be a drag out. It's not going to be a blowout. So 5 or 6, but I have the Clippers, just too talented. And Kawhi and Paul George especially leading that team, of course, being the main star on that squad. It's hard to get past Paul George. And then you have Nuggets, Jazz. This is one of those where I think best case scenario for the Nuggets, it goes 5. I don't think that happens, especially after seeing yesterday. I think it goes 6. But again, each game is just going to be knocked down, drag out. I don't expect any team to blow the other out in this series. So I'm going to go Nuggets there. Rockets, Thunder. I have the Rockets winning that one. This one was a tough one because I could see it going either way. And this really hinges on, too, how long Russell's going to be out. I think he's going to play today, but I'm not sure. Or he's going to miss a game. But I just think that the Rockets are too talented with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Well, for the Thunder, yes, they have Chris Paul, but, I mean, he's at like 19, 20 points a game. Can Chris Paul average 25 to 26 a game anymore? Is that what he's doing? I know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is there. I really haven't seen enough of him to know if he's that guy. So I'm going to go with the Rockets because I have 2 proven guys that I've seen do it. So in the second round, I have Lakers-Rockets. I'm going to go the Lakers there. Again, I just think there's too much talent. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be small ball versus tall ball with the Lakers and the Rockets. That's 2 contrasting styles there. I don't think anybody's going to be able to guard LeBron or AD for that matter. I mean, it's going to be PJ Tucker, a poor PJ Tucker. I don't think he signed up for the small ball role. I think if there was anybody that was against it, it was probably PJ Tucker, because he's guarding every team's center in their bid. And he's like, are you kidding? Like, did anybody consult me? Do you think I want to guard Jokic and Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis No, I don't. I want to guard, Jimmy Butler. I want to guard, the smaller guys, Devin Booker. That's who I want to guard. But unfortunately, he's tasked with that. So I think the Lakers win. I think I had that one going 6 as well. Notice the theme here with the Lakers. They're not just sweeping teams because I'm that worried about them. Nuggets, Clippers. This one I think I had going 5 or 6. If it goes 5, I think it's a tough series. The Nuggets, oddly enough, play well against the Clippers, despite that game in LA where they got completely just obliterated. But they had a chance to beat them the other night. By this time, I'm assuming Gary and Will are back, so the Nuggets are at full strength. I think that that's good enough to net them 2 games if they're playing well. So, but ultimately, Clippers in that one. Then you have LA. I just think the Clippers are too talented. They had the Lakers number all year this year in the regular season, and I think I had that one going 6 or 7. But ultimately, Clippers, Bucks in the finals. That's what I got. There's a lot there. Whew, tired. Do you want me to do my finals prediction as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For this one, I think the Clippers are just the most talented team in the NBA. Even though the Bucks are really good, the Clippers have the stars and they have the role players. I mean, they can throw out a lineup of Kawhi Leonard, which they did last night. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams, and who else did they have out there? I think it was Montrez, or maybe Montrez wasn't out there. But they have a lineup where they can throw out, or the Morris guy, whichever one it is. I don't know. I can't tell them apart. But they have legitimately 4 guys that can score. Maybe Morris can't get 20 every night, but 18 to 20, 30 points. And they have 3 guys that can legitimately close for you on the floor at one time. You can't double any of them because they're just going to knock down the shot, especially Paul George. If you leave him open, you're going to knock down that shot more often than not. I'm just saying. But I think the Clippers win this. I'll give it 6. I think the Bucks are good enough to take them to 6, but I think the Clippers ultimately win it, and Kawhi Leonard wins his 3rd Finals MVP with 3 teams. There you go.
You really want a Paul George versus Middleton matchup, don't you?
Oh, I do. I want Paul George to just come. I hope they guard each other too. I hope Paul George drops 28 on his head and Middleton gives you his usual 15 points. God, I just want that so bad. I want it so bad.
Watch them be the exact same.
No, it won't be the exact same because it's not. They're not the same player.
They are.
God,
They're
not.
They are the
You're
same
so
player.
disrespectful to Paul George. It's not even funny.
All right. Let's get to mine. Been waiting for this because I think I have a couple of surprises. So.
Oh boy.
All right.
I don't like where this is
So. Number 1. Let's go with the Boston Orlando series. We got.
Say the Boston Orlando series,
or the Bucks, the Bucks Orlando series. Obviously, like you said,
you're making me uncomfortable.
Obviously, like you said, the Bucks are gonna win that series. It's not gonna even really be close. It'll be a sweep. The Indiana Heat series is really interesting, just because the way Indiana kind of came on in this playoff series or in the seeding games with TJ Warren, if he can do that every game, if he can average 30 a game, then they have a solid chance. But I think with the Heat, we've talked about the Heat before. Like they have so many shooters around Jimmy Butler and around Bam, and their defense is extremely good. I mean, we saw it firsthand against the Nuggets. I mean, they torched them, and their defense is really good. So I really like the Heat this year. And then Boston, Philly. This is where I have actually my first upset. I'm going with Philly here. I think Joel Embiid will prove that he's the best center in the league with this series.
It's a hill I do not want to die on.
And
it's your grave.
I got Toronto beating Brooklyn. Won't be close. And then I got Philly again beating Toronto. Again, Joel Embiid he's gonna prove that he's the best center in the league.
Are you sponsored by somebody from Philadelphia?
I have.
What is this?
On the other side, with Milwaukee and Miami, I have Miami beating the Bucks.
Okay. No.
Now here and here's why. It's because the Heat with their shooters all over. I think they have the defense. I think they're gonna sink on Giannis. I don't think Middleton will be enough to carry them. And
there. Yeah.
And I got the Heat beating the Bucks. And then to finish off in the Eastern Conference Finals,
games?
I don't know. Honestly, I could see that one going 7. And then with the Eastern Conference Finals, I got, once again, Joel Embiid, who is going to prove that he's the best center in the league. Will carry the Philadelphia 76ers all the way to the NBA Finals. And then here in the West, I got Portland beating the Lakers. I don't think Portland is a normal 8 seed. I think they are, if they were healthy all season long, they would have been a top 4 seed. And Damian Lillard in the bubble is on a whole nother level. So I got Portland beating the Lakers. I'll say Portland beats the Lakers in 6. I think the Lakers, they've pretty much fallen apart here. Injuries have hurt them. I don't think there's enough around LeBron and AD. With the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder, I have Houston. Like you said, I think as long as Russ is healthy, I think that's kind of the really, that's something that can really flip the series. If he's not healthy, Oklahoma City will win. But I got Houston. I think they have too much talent. I have the Nuggets. I have the Nuggets beating the Jazz. I have the Nuggets beating the Jazz. I would say after yesterday too, especially, I think it goes 6 probably. And then the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. If it wasn't for the refs yesterday, the Dallas Mavericks would have won that game. The Clippers cannot stop Porzingis. Luka, they don't. I mean, they went ahead and got Kawhi and Paul George, who are these all great world defenders out on the wing, and Luka still did his thing. So I'm picking the Clippers in 7. Or not the Clippers, the Mavericks in 7. The Mavericks beat the Clippers in the first round. I don't think Paul George is going to have a very good series. And defensively, Paul George and Kawhi didn't look too good against Luka. And they have no one to guard Porzingis. And then I have Portland beating Houston in probably 6. And then I have Denver beating Dallas in 7. And then I have Portland then beating Denver in 7 to make it to the NBA Finals. And then I got Portland beating the. No, I'm just kidding. This is not real. I
was gonna say it's obvious one of us took this exercise seriously. So I apologize to everybody.
No. Those are my fake picks. Here's my real picks. Okay, I got the Bucks winning. Got the Heat beating the Pacers. Got the Celtics beating the Sixers.
Unbelievable. I was wondering why you were smiling the whole time while I was picking. I was like, what is he doing? Like, is there's like somebody in the YouTube comments making a joke? Like, wait, what? Did he see something on Twitter? I was like, what is he doing?
The Embiid one got you. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Everything about that got me. And the sad part is I actually believed that because I could actually see you choosing those teams. That was totally believable.
No. Okay. I can't do it anymore. No. I can't pick Portland to the finals. I just can't. Okay. So I think for the most part it's pretty similar. Except I made one last second move, and I'll get to it. I think you can see it. And
just dashed my dreams again, huh?
So I have the Bucks getting to the conference final or getting to the finals. I'll just say that I think they beat the Heat along the way, and I also think that Toronto beats Boston. Here's the thing with Toronto. They lost Kawhi, but in the bubble they've played great, and the way they beat the Nets too. I just don't think all the things that hurt them before without Kawhi, they don't have to deal with in the bubble. And with Pascal and the way he has stepped up, they got shooters everywhere. Van Vliet was awesome yesterday with Powell, and they have shooters everywhere, and they're such a great defensive team. I really like Boston, and I think Jason Tatum's going to be a star in the league eventually. But even the Gordon, and I did this before the Gordon Hayward thing came out, but if he's hurt, I can't trust Boston enough yet. I don't think they're there yet. And look, Toronto has that experience. That's going to help them. It really is. They learned a lot last year with Kawhi, and I think they can kind of, and they're out to prove something, right? Everyone says, well, they won the finals because of Kawhi. So I think with something to prove, I think they can beat Boston. But then when it comes against Milwaukee, I think Giannis is too much.
And that's where it stops.
Right. But here's the thing. Toronto knows how to play Milwaukee. They beat them last year. And how did they do it? They packed the paint, dared Giannis to shoot.
Yeah, they also had Kawhi though. So
Right. And I think that's where the difference is going to be. But I wouldn't be shocked if Toronto beat Milwaukee. I wouldn't. I'd be a little surprised. But again, if they pack the paint and if their shooters shoot the ball well and Kyle Lowry plays well, Pascal plays well, and Van Vliet is hitting threes, Powell's hitting threes, all those guys are hitting threes, they can beat Milwaukee. They can. It's just they got to shoot the ball really well. And I think they've been shooting the ball really well in the bubble. And because you're not traveling, it's going to stay like that, most likely. So they have a shot. They have a shot. But I do have the Bucks going to the NBA Finals. In the West, like you said, I do think the Lakers-Blazers series is going to be close. I actually have that one going 7. Like I said earlier, Portland's not a normal 8 seed. They're not. I think if they were healthy throughout the regular season, and Dame still went Dame mode, I think they would have finished top 5, probably top 4. They're not a normal 8 seed. I don't think they're gonna have enough against LeBron and AD, and they don't play any defense. So at the end of the day, that's gonna hurt them. And then I actually have Oklahoma City beating Houston. The Russell Westbrook injury scares me. I don't know if small ball will work. And with Oklahoma City, I think Steven Adams is going to have a big series. That's a big mismatch. I think Gallo's going to play really well too. Because again, no one's going to be able to guard Gallo. No one's going to be able to guard Steven Adams. Chris Paul is playing really well. Gilgeous Alexander is playing fantastic. I really like Oklahoma City, but that one's going 7.
Okay.
And then I have the Nuggets beating the Jazz. I think this one 5 or 6, depending on how the Nuggets shoot the ball. That one goes 5 or 6. I'll go 6 though. Dallas, I think yesterday was a wake up call for them. Or at least for the Clippers, I think it was a little bit of a wake up call. I'm still on. I think Dallas wins that game if Porzingis doesn't get ejected. No one can guard Porzingis. And I think that's going to hurt the Clippers in the next series, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But Porzingis might have a big series. And if he does, and if Lucas continues to have a big series,
yeah,
they have a long shot. It's a long shot, but they have a shot. Because the Clippers defensively, even though they went out and got Pat Bev, Paul George, they have Kawhi, 3 great defenders. Luka is still doing Luka things. He did have a lot of turnovers yesterday, but he's still able to do Luka things. And defensively against Porzingis, they don't have anyone. They don't have anyone against Boban. They don't have anyone they don't have the bigs to do anything against those guys. So whether those guys can take advantage of it, I don't know. But I think that's mostly why I'm picking the Clippers still, is because I don't know if Porzingis can really be a 30-12 guy. He's going to have to for them to win it, and I just don't think he can be that guy consistently. And then the Lakers, Oklahoma City series, I think the Portland series actually might be their toughest series on their way to the NBA Finals. I got the Lakers winning in probably 5 against the Thunder. And then I have the Nuggets over the I have the Nuggets over the Clippers. I did this last second, and I did this mainly because of what I saw from Jamal and what I saw Porzingis and Luka do to the Clippers. And the way the Nuggets played the Clippers in that game in the bubble about a week ago or earlier this week, they showed me something, and they didn't really run any of their offense. Essentially both teams did it, but they ran very vanilla game, right? I just think the Nuggets have too much. with being in the bubble, if this was a normal series with normal crowds, normal travel, I'd pick the Clippers. But like I said earlier, I think being in the bubble, the break and being in the bubble, benefit the Nuggets more than any team in the league because of their youth, because they have the amount of talent that they do. And with the Clippers, I think it's a bad matchup for the Clippers. I don't think they can guard Jokic. They haven't been able to. If you go back and look at all the games, Jokic kills them. I think Porter might struggle a little bit against Kawhi and Paul George, but if he can hit contested threes, I think it's something that the Clippers haven't seen. And historically, I think KD has played well against both Kawhi and Paul George, and I think, obviously MPJ isn't KD, but that style I think can hurt the Clippers a little bit. And Jamal's just on another level. That's going to be the matchup though. Like Jamal and Pat Bev, like those two, if Jamal can hold his own against Beverly, and I think with the Nuggets getting healthy, this one's going 7. At the end of the day, though, I just don't think the Clippers can guard Jokic. And Jokic could easily average 30, 12, and 8 in that series.
Wow.
Like, he can, because they don't have, who's going to guard him? Who's going to stop him?
Zubats. That's who they'll...
Right.
And Morris and Montrez.
And Gobert can barely hold Jokic to 30, 10, and 3. So
Yeah,
what is he going to do against them? I just, that's the biggest difference. I don't think the Clippers are fully healthy. Their chemistry, I think, is kind of a mess because they've barely played with each other. Not just in the bubble, but in the normal regular season too. So I just think, I don't know, something doesn't feel right with the Clippers. And I think everything is starting to click for the Nuggets. And I think it's just that the timing is perfect for the Nuggets. Again, like I said, if it's a normal series outside of the bubble, in LA, in Denver, I'm picking the Clippers. But in the bubble, I'm picking the Nuggets. And then I have the Lakers beating the Nuggets. I think LeBron and AD, we'll see tonight, but I think they're going to turn it on. LeBron's still the best player in the league. Anytime he's made the playoffs in the last 10 years, he's made it to the NBA Finals. So until that changes, I'm picking LeBron to the NBA Finals. That's literally my excuse.
LeBron will have one less fan if that happens.
What, him beating the Nuggets?
I'm telling you, LeBron's stuck.
And then the same thing with the finals. The Bucks are close, but they're not there yet. I don't think there's enough around Giannis and Middleton. And
he snuck that in there.
And I think by that point, I think Anthony Davis is going to have a massive series against Milwaukee. So I have the Lakers being in the Bucks in the finals. But like I said, I changed 2 things last second: the Boston-Toronto series and the Nuggets Clippers series. I flipped them the last second.
I mean, it's going to be a fun playoff to watch, regardless of how things turn out. I think there's a lot of talented teams. Other than the 2 top Eastern teams sweeping their opponents, every series is probably going to be at least 5 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to be in line for some really fun playoff series as we go along here. And I mean, if the Nuggets make it that far, I mean, hey, I'll take it. I mean, if they even make it to 6 games against the Clippers, who we assume, that's what I assume.
I just don't get why everyone thinks the Clippers are by far and away the best team in the West. I just don't, because they're not playing well. And it's like everyone sees
talent-wise they are the best.
Sure,
team.
Talent-wise, they got the recipe to win a championship, right? But chemistry-wise, they're not there.
Sure.
Montrezl Harrell is off in La La Land right now because he hasn't played at all. Lou Williams is still getting his feet under, and it can change by the time they get to the Nuggets, right? Because it's over a week away. But there's something, with the Clippers, even if they get to the Lakers, I don't think they can beat the Lakers. Because who's going to guard Anthony Davis? what are they going to do against Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee? And I get their backup centers, but I mean, they don't have anyone. The Clippers don't have the size. And, like Pat Beverly can mess with the Nuggets because Jamal Murray, he's going to have Jamal Murray as a task, right? But here's the thing. Jamal is bigger at 6'5". He's stronger. Well, maybe not stronger, but he got stronger over the break. And Jamal is one of the best, at least right now, he is one of the best tough shot makers. And honestly, I would rather him take a tough shot than a wide open shot at this point. That's just how Jamal
doesn't
is.
take open shots. Jamal sees an open three and he's like, I'm going to step into the 7-foot arms and I'm going to shoot this one instead.
So, I mean, that matchup there, now if they put Paul George or Kawhi on Jamal, which they probably will because I think Jamal will bother. I don't think Beverly will be able to do what they want him to do against Jamal. If they flip and put Kawhi or Paul George on Jamal, that'll be interesting. I think Jamal has the speed though. So I don't know how they're gonna, that's really the key matchup is Jamal versus whoever they put up against Jamal.
I think would be if this lineup holds and for some reason Gary's not back, or even if Gary does come back, I think it'll be Beverly on Jamal. I think Kawhi will be on Gary or whoever. It's the least amount of energy he has to expend, and I think you're going to see Paul George on MPJ.
And that's the thing is, those are two matchups. No one can guard Jokic, and I think Jokic is going to have his way. But one of the two, Porter or Jamal, would have to step up. And as of right now, it's going to be Jamal. I'm just not sure really who's going to guard Jamal because I feel like I don't know if Beverly is big enough and quick enough to guard Jamal, at least right now. So, again, I mean, we'll see. A lot of things can change with the Clippers. They can get healthier. They can get more comfortable. They can get that chemistry back. That's something that obviously can happen by the time they face the Nuggets. But as of right now, the Nuggets have an upper hand.
Well, hopefully we even get to that point. I mean, the Nuggets still have to get past the Utah Jazz. I mean, anything can happen in this series. I mean, so as long as things go well, I mean, hopefully we can get to that point. But that's going to do it for us today on the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hanging out with us, whether you watch via YouTube or you're listening on the podcast. We thank you guys for tuning in. Also, shout out to, I think we have, last time I checked, new listeners in the Philippines. So I didn't look up how to say thank you for listening in Filipino, but thank you for listening. So there's that. Plus, I didn't want to butcher your language like I did with the, I think it was the Dutch or the Germans the last time. So out of respect for you, thank you for listening. That's going to do it for us today, though. For Brandon Stoll on the other side, I'm Stephen Priest Jr. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.